You're listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Get the knowledge you need to advance your mortgage practice quickly and efficiently from Jen to Plessis, America's mortgage mastery mentor with over 37 years of experience and over $1 billion in lifetime fundings. Jen has been mentoring loan officers and realtors for over 15 years and speaking on stages across the globe. So settle in and get ready as Jen and her guests share their experience, passion, and strategies to help you crack the top producer code to reach new heights in your business. And now, here's your host, Jen Duplessis, Mortgage Mastery Mentor and head chick in charge of Kinetic Spark Consulting.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this episode. My wonderful guest today is Rebecca Zung. She is one of the top 1% of attorneys in the nation, having been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as a best lawyer in America. She has been on TV shows. She's been on Newsweek, Dr. Drew, NRP Talk Radio, Good Day New York, CBS Los Angeles. She's an author of 2 books. The first is Negotiate Like You Matter, which is an acronym, and we're not going to spend time with that today, and Step-by-Step Divorce Guide. Both great, wonderful books that you'll be picking up, and we'll make sure that we have the links in here so that you can pick up those books. But most importantly is what she does so well is helps people understand how to negotiate with a narcissist and win. And so we're going to talk about that pretty extensively today. So welcome to the show, Rebecca. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
And we've had so much fun because we didn't do just green room this morning, which we did a few minutes ago, but we've also done almost an hour-long phone conversation because we just fell in love with each other and said, oh my gosh, we got to talk and see what the possibilities are. So I want to just start with, how did you, attorneys are a dime a dozen. We know that. And I was in a commodity world too, but how did you go from being just an attorney and maybe you had a specialty to being the superpower that you are now in really helping people negotiate to win against people that are so self-consumed?
Well, in a number of different ways. I really believe that all of us have a purpose in life, and everything that we do leads up to that exact moment where it all kind of comes together and there you are. So I didn't set out to do this. And honestly, when I tell people what I do for a living, I help people negotiate with narcissists, I have to kind of laugh a little bit. And that is exactly what I dreamed of doing when I was 7 years old, playing with my dollies. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Obviously.
I'm believing you. Well, that's a negotiation technique.
Obviously kidding. No, No. It just so happened that I ended up, I was a divorce lawyer, and I really was an entrepreneur at heart. And so I loved building the practice, and I created this massive, large practice, and I had many, many clients and lots of way too much work to do. And I didn't really enjoy what I called the gerbil wheel phase of it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so I built the practice. I wrote the book, Breaking Free, a step-by-step divorce guide. I did some interviews around that. And I wanted to spend more time with my daughter, who's now a freshman in college. And she was just starting high school. And I was like, I got to do something else with my life. I want to be more creative. I want to do other things. And so that was sort of the first step. And I had been teaching people how to negotiate for years because as a divorce attorney and building my practice,
I imagine.
I needed something to speak to people about, and nobody wanted to hear a divorce attorney come in and speak. So I needed to come up with something to speak to Rotary clubs or associations or whatever. So I came up with this negotiation talk. So I've been teaching on it for years, and I was even the keynote speaker for an ABA meeting and all this stuff. American Bar Association. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book on negotiation, which is what I did. And Robert Shapiro came forward. He did the foreword for it. And I thought, okay, this is my path. Because I was learning about digital courses and things like that. At that same time, I came to realize that 2 people in my life who are making me completely miserable and causing what I call drama, trauma, and chaos into my life. Somebody who's a friend of mine, who's a psychologist, said that these people are covert narcissists. And I was like, I never even heard that term before. I mean, to me, a narcissist was the big, braggadocious person. These people were not that. And so I bought books on covert narcissism, and I started reading about narcissism, and I started learning everything I could, because it was like, oh my God, very clear that that's what these people were. One was in a business setting, and one is an extended family member. And so as I started learning about narcissism, I was like, oh, I could put this together. I could actually take what I've learned about negotiation and put it together, what I've learned, what I've learned about narcissism, and see if it makes any difference in the cases that I have. So, I only ever practiced in high net worth, divorce, billionaires, celebrities, and there's a narcissist or two in that little world. And so I started to see movement. I actually started to figure it out, because once I figured out the psychology of these people, I was able to figure out how to do it. And so I thought, you know what, let me just start doing a couple of videos on YouTube and see if anybody's interested. And my channel literally blew up. I got 100,000 subscribers and 6 million views in 10 months. And that was where the birth of my program, Slayer Negotiation, came out of. And I don't even practice law anymore, really, because this is all I do all day long.
Right, is helping people. So I have lots of questions for you. So, as people are listening to this podcast, and they're saying, I know the word narcissist. I think we all, in my opinion, I think we have different definitions of that, and like you just said, is you have a covert narcissist, right? So this is sort of like a closet narcissist. Like they can dig from underneath. They're like burrowing up to grab you and pull you down, and while you're out paying attention to all the other people, right? So it kind of reminds me of like disc profiling, where you're doing the dominating, and influencing, steadying, controlling. Which, by the way, I'm a super, super, super high I, like off the circle I. I
actually just had that done recently. And I did a whole show on my podcast with 2 disc experts on that.
Yeah. I'm super, really super, super, super high I, like way out there high I. Want to have fun. And then I'm a C, because I have, that's like a helium balloon. The I is a helium balloon, and the C is the string that holds my helium balloon down. So I want to have fun, but then my C is going, what? Wait, hold on, wait a minute, right? So it's pretty interesting. So I'm wondering a couple things. One is I want you to take just a quick minute to explain what a narcissist is for people that are already on their phones going, okay, what is it exactly? The true meaning of it. And then I'd like to have you talk about how can you identify them in some words they use, or some body language they have, or tone. How do we identify that we are dealing with a narcissist, whether covert or not? And then we'll talk about how we're going to work against that, or shouldn't say, just work in a way to win, to ensure that they don't steamroll us.
Yeah, it's hard to see at first, because they're really, really good at the beginning of any relationship, whether it's a covert, which is more underhanded and hard to see. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're more passive aggressive, and their anger is sort of underneath. It's just underneath the surface, And I loved your analogy of burrowing up from the surface and yanking down. Yeah, that is such a great analogy. I'm totally remembering that. Because they all start out with what they call the idealization phase, or the love bombing phase, which is where they're actually masters at reading people. So they're really good at figuring out who they need to be, or what they need to say, or how they need to present themselves so that they seem absolutely perfect. Like, I need this person as my best friend. I need this person as my boyfriend, or my girlfriend, or my wife, or husband, or whatever, my business partner.
So they're a chameleon.
They're definitely chameleons.
Okay,
definitely
gotcha.
chameleons. And so, but the thing is, they all start off with this phase. And the first red flag is going to be that this person is very quick to want to move the relationship along as fast as possible, because they're making deposits into this relationship because they want to start withdrawing. And they don't really want this. They're basically grooming you to become a source of narcissistic supply for them, which is anything that feeds their ego.
Very shallow. So the
Correct.
faster we can move through here, the sooner they won't realize that I don't have depth.
Yes, or figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and then they ensconce themselves into the relationship with you, and that's when they start devaluing you, and you start to see these little red flags happening, and you start to see the manipulation happening. But by then, you start to go, well, I've already invested this, or I've already been down this path.
Yeah.
I just had this conversation actually with my cousin yesterday, and he had started this project with somebody who's turning out to be a narcissist, a business partner. And he's like, well, I've already talked to all these people, and I've already started to get clients. And I was like, just get out now. It's not going to get better, and it'll be harder to get out of at that point, So, and then the other thing I want to mention about narcissism is it's two things. It's that they have no inner sense of value. So they have to suck it all from the external world. And they have no ability to have any sense of feeling of care or empathy for the other person. So, I hear a lot sometimes on social media or whatever, where people will be like, if you say anything that's nice about yourself, like I'm good at baseball or whatever, that person's a narcissist because they said something good about themselves. That is not a narcissist.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Because I said that today to somebody. Well, it was my team. I was having a meeting and I said, I'm so proud of myself today. And I wish I could tell you what it is right now to give you a really good example. But I was, I wish I would what it was, but I was saying, you guys, I'm just so proud of myself because I'm finally learning how to da-da-da-da-da. That isn't narcissism. That is an outward acknowledgement that's supporting my personal growth. For me, it is.
Well, and as women, I think a lot of times we feel like we're not supposed to champion ourselves, or we're not supposed to say anything good about ourselves because, we're going to get accused of being conceited or boastful or, narcissistic in today's world, since that word gets thrown around so often. And then what happens is we're not, sticking up for ourselves, I mean, and it's okay if you want to champion yourself. I mean, that's totally fine. Yeah. It's just the other side of it is, do you need to feel, that you have value by, devaluing, debasing, or degrading other people?
Yeah. So do you think that's where it really starts, is that, it's not the personal compliment to yourself that says, something, that it's more the way that you respond to others. So it's not we don't want to look for the trigger of me, I'm great, I'm whatever, but rather the trigger of someone demoralizing someone else or putting someone else down or finding flaw in what someone does. Is a means of a defense mechanism. Is it more of a defense mechanism?
Well, I think it's both in some ways. I think it's both in some ways. I mean, because, having a sense of entitlement or, magical thinking or shamelessness, those are all actual factors that they look at for the DSM-5, that Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5 that they use, that the psychiatrists use to actually diagnose narcissism. Actually narcissistic personality disorder, which is an actual legitimate personality disorder. I mean, I think there's I think it's a spectrum. I think that, on one end of the spectrum, you've got the full on empath person who is like super caring and feels really good about themselves and loves other people. And then, it kind of just sort of almost like triangles or something, or, something that goes down. And so there's certainly degrees of it. I mean, there's definitely going to be people out there who are more narcissistic than others, but maybe not necessarily have NPD.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is what I say all the time. Like, even if the person's just a jackass, like if they're super difficult to deal with, then it doesn't matter if they've actually been diagnosed with this thing or something else, it's just like, what's your experience in having to deal with them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can imagine that as a divorce attorney, you've had to deal with that quite a bit, or it kind of rears its ugly head, right? Whereas this was a, amiable, oh, we're going to do this through mediation. We're going to be nice to each other. We promise. And all of a sudden this stuff comes up, and it's not the me as much as it's, so bad against the other person, and that's where all the communication drops down. So tell us how this reveals itself in business as opposed to how it would reveal itself in a marital situation. Because obviously we've all experienced people who have just gone off the deep end, right?
Right.
How does it reveal itself in a business situation to know when we need to cut our losses and say, no, hey, I'm not the right person for you, because that's cancer for me, my team, my business, my practice?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, I had to deal with this myself in a business setting. So, unfortunately, I have many examples that I could use. In some ways, I wish I didn't but but on the other hand,
that's what makes you an expert. Yeah.
It's helped me do what I do now. And so, everything happens for a reason, right? So, in my particular situation, I was in a place in my life where I was starting something new, and this person also was ready to start something new. And so I was sort of vulnerable to it. So I would say, be very careful if you're vulnerable, if you're feeling fearful about something new, if you're feeling fearful that you won't be able to handle something. And so you're looking for someone to just fill that void for you, whether it's in a business partnership or, somebody to run your company, or somebody to work for you, or somebody who's working for you.
A magic pill, right?
Yeah.
That person has that. It's the gap that you've been looking for. And so you put yourself in a vulnerable position because
Correct.
you are scrambling for the need of it so much.
Correct. So I would just be really careful. It's not worth it. Step back, take a deep breath, choose what you want. It'll be okay if you just choose and get there. And, I had a friend who's also a business coach, and she said to me, you think when you're starting something new that you need somebody, but you don't. And that was like the best advice for me. So everything I do now, I don't have a partner. I have strategic alliances and relationships, and
team members and that type of thing.
Oh, totally. And then people that I do certain things with, we collaborate, all that is great, but anyway, so that was one of the things. Another thing was, just red flags at the beginning of the relationship where the person would say that they would do things and then they didn't come to fruition, and then you're left in a situation where it's like, are you supposed to be nagging this person? Do you just do it yourself? Do you bring it up and then they get defensive, or they say they're doing it, or you ask about it and they obviously just did whatever it was because you asked about it, or they half-ass it, and you start to feel like they're resenting you for asking them about things that they said they were going to do, and like, you don't want to have to police people. And so that was one that I saw, things that don't add up.
Yeah. How does that relate to someone being a narcissist, for example? I mean, some people are just not good with follow-up.
Yeah. So the person I was dealing with was a covert narcissist who had no sense of self, very fragile sense of self. And so there was a lot of passive aggression. And, and I felt that undertone all the time, this constant, competition almost. If they seem like they're being competitive with you, or they're trying to put you
Okay.
down in certain situations. Things are not adding up, like, money situations where I
Right.
saw this person, like, I knew that there was a client involved and the money didn't come into the account. And I was told that the money went into this other person's account because she didn't know how to do the bookkeeping or something, which didn't make any sense to me. And the money never ended up coming into the business account.
Right.
Like things like that are
Right, where there's
just
that lack of integrity behind it. Because as you're explaining that, I've had that situation where someone gave me my word, and I didn't know. How it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me get to whatever and find out. And then I solved the problem. So yeah, from her perspective, it wasn't adding up that I might not know, but I solved it.
So when a
integrity
person
got me back.
doesn't solve it. So when the person
Okay.
doesn't want to solve it.
Because every time
And-
you're giving these examples, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me, except this, except that. So,
Well, except, if you call somebody out on it, like a non-narcissistic person will say, oh my God, you're right. I'm so sorry. Let me do it right now.
Right.
And, you don't feel that sense of competition all the
Gotcha.
time. And there's like these
Gotcha.
little like digs. I mean, so narcissists attach themselves to people. And I always say this, they don't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves because you have so much, because they want to literally suck the value out of you. I mean, I felt like with this person that she literally wanted to be me. And I knew nothing about narcissism, nothing. And I just remember feeling like, I don't mind sharing, but please don't try to like be a pod and take over my body and try to be me.
Right.
Like it was the strangest situation.
Yeah. So they're value vampires.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. The word is like energy vampire, but value vampire is good too.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there now. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, that's really good. So now, if you feel like you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist, do you just cut bait and run? Or do you, because obviously you're saying, hey, how to negotiate with them. So should I stay long enough? When do I know when to leave and when to stay, when to hold them and fold them, right?
That's a great song. Yeah. Well, I mean, you always should get out of it as soon as you can. As soon as you realize what's happening, you need to get out of it. But, I'll see some people every once in a while, I'll see a comment here or two on Facebook saying, oh, why are you bothering to teach them how to negotiate? Just get out, just go leave.
Right.
Well, not everybody has that option. I mean, if you're dealing with them in a business situation,
there's money.
There's money involved, or employees, or value of the company, or maybe it's intellectual property that you have to deal with, or maybe it's a house, in a real estate situation. Yeah. Maybe it's a house, which is oftentimes the largest asset for people. And so you can't just walk away sometimes, So the key is going to be in creating strategy and leverage so that the person wants to come to the table and wants to have a conversation with you in a reasonable, normal person way.
Yeah. And so that leads us to your SLAY method, right? The SLAY method in how to overcome those narcissistic tendencies that they have. And you already mentioned strategy and leverage, but you also have anticipate and use. So walk us through, okay, I need to have a strategy. I have no idea what that strategy should be. Should I be like them? Should I counterbalance them? What should I do? And what do you mean by leverage so that they, because you're walking towards that anticipation of how they're going to react, but you ultimately want the yes. But so talk to us about the strategy and leverage as it leads to the anticipation of their response.
Yeah. So anticipation means a couple of different things, but let me talk about,
Mhm.
so strategy is, there's 3 steps to strategy that I teach people in my SLAY program, which is the diagnosis, figuring out what's going on, what kind of person
Mhm.
I'm dealing with. And that's actually part of your anticipating too. And then your guiding policy or your vision, like in other words, where am I going? What am I doing? What everything is going
Right.
to filter through that. Sometimes when people are in crisis or fire mode, they forget to actually figure out, where do I want to go with all
Right.
of this? I mean, it seems so obvious, but I've seen so many people who just don't even think about that. All they can think about is making the other person look bad or just survival, right?
Right.
So
Right.
having a guiding vision or policy, and then creating an action plan. And part of the action plan is actually figuring out what your leverage is and figuring out when you're going to use it, and be super tactical about all of that. But your action plan is also much more than just creating leverage. It's also, what do I need to research? Do I need to research my side? What do I need to figure out from my side? What are their arguments going to be? And how do I research it? I tell people to stand in their shoes, and action plan also, this, part of the strategy is, where are these negotiations going to take place? When are they going to take place? What am I going to wear? How do I, create rapport? What does my body language look like? There's so many things that go into strategy. But leverage is part of strategy. It's
Right.
part of it. And leverage is, it's that thing that you create that sort of squeezes the other person, that makes them feel more incentivized and motivated to want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And with a narcissist, it's often creating a situation where they feel like a supply source is going to be threatened, and a supply source that means more to them to protect and maintain than the supply that they get from jerking you around, because they get supply from that too.
Yeah. So give us an example of some leverage you could give with someone who is, I mean, aside from the strategy, you've done all of that kind of work, but just so I have clear understanding of the leverage, is it a fast action item? Is when you
Oh
talk about
no.
supply, is it, look, you either
Yeah.
make the decision today or we're moving on? And is
Well,
that
it's some of that. There's definitely, that's definitely something that I think is good. But when you get to that point where you're saying you make that decision today, you got to be, so there's so many hours. So, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you got to think about it in terms of a long game. There's very rarely going to be a smoking gun, but leverage can be any kinds of things. I tell people, if you're dealing with them in a case, putting together a summary of lies and inconsistent statements, that you're going to present to the judge or to the mediator, that's a really great source of leverage, because they won't believe you went back through every single text message and email and actually pulled them all together and matched them up and said, on this day you said this, and on this day you said that. See, lie.
Right. And that, I mean, I feel that, right? I feel that from that person's perspective of, wait a minute. So you're going to reveal my truth. You're going to reveal, this deposit that I made. All of a sudden you're withdrawing all of these deposits that I made to be. I get it. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really cool. And, anticipating what their objections might be, or the way that they're going to respond, so that you can get yourself on your way to a yes. So there's a lot of work in this. I mean, slay sounds like a really short word, let's slay them. Let's kind of knock their head off. But there's a lot of work involved in that. And so I can see why people are saying, let's just back up. But what's the result when you can get through this? What is in it for us who are not them in being able to overcome that? What are some of the great benefits that we get?
I mean, there's so many. And the first one is actually not even what you might think. I mean, okay, yes, you can win the negotiation and have a fair result or an outcome. So yes, that's number one. And number two is going to be that you have an agreement that actually sticks. Because even if you can force an agreement and, it's going to fall apart if you don't use methodology like what I'm teaching people how to do. And now you're dealing with trying to keep the whole thing together, and
that's worse
and
than
that's just
dealing with them in the beginning.
It's a mess.
Right?
It's a mess.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but the biggest piece, I think, to me, all the people who've ever done my program and graduated and done the negotiation, they tell me that they feel more powerful in every aspect of their lives now.
Mm-hmm.
And they spot these people and they know how to deal with difficult people all the time, because we're negotiating all day long. Everything is a negotiation. Yeah. And so now they have like a different mindset. They feel more empowered. They feel stronger. They feel more courageous. That's like, you can't even put a price on that.
Right. It's priceless. So I want to shift gears on this and talk about, how do you do this with your family? How do you do it with a family member that you're constantly feeling like you're negotiating with? And, I know you use different words, I think, but I think bipolar, right? Bipolar. I can't remember the words that you use, but they, they're friendly one minute and then they're just like, who are you? And you feel like you're walking on eggshells because you don't know who you're going to get anymore. And I akin this to the fact that my daughter, when she was a teenager, we called her Whitley. Her name's Whitney, but we had a Whitley name for her too, right? Like sometimes she was Whitney and she's cuddly and all this stuff. And then the next thing you turn around and we had Whitley on our hands and we couldn't get her to do anything. Nothing, not take out the trash, not clean her room, nothing. We couldn't get, and we were constantly negotiating with her. And I'm not saying she's a narcissist. I'm just saying, how do you deal with this when it's family and we're not talking about pieces of paper that we're filling in blanks and it's contractual and it's going to cost us money if it doesn't go right? How do we do this from the heartfelt side?
It's really hard because we have a family member that we're dealing with as well. And, we've actually just kind of basically gone no contact completely, which is super sad. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, and it's certainly not at all what we wanted, but this person, they couldn't help themselves from continuing to be toxic. The problem with narcissists is they don't know how to be anything but manipulative in the world. That is their way of being. They lie about stuff they don't even need to lie about, and stuff that's readily verifiable. And so it's really, really hard to deal with them because they don't know anything other than manipulating situations. And even when things aren't good for them, they continue to do that. And so I advocate for either complete boundary, like no contact whatsoever, or if you have to have contact with them, then having, really, really strong boundaries as far as being brief and having, saying, okay.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts, ma'am. That's actually one of the little memes I have in my webinar, which is just the facts, ma'am or sir. I understand that that's how you feel, and you're certainly entitled to your opinion. Leaving it over there on their side of the the equation.
I like that.
It's not coming over here.
There.
It's not coming over here. It's staying over there. And so, okay, I see that's how you feel. I understand. And you're right that's your perception. And you're certainly, everybody has their own. And so obviously that's what you think.
This is so timely for us because my husband's mother passed away and we are dealing with his brother, and everything is about him. Everything is about him. And he just throws back all the time. Like, my husband got the whole house. He got her house and he thought he was going to get half of it. And you don't need it because you have, 2 people in your household, yada, yada, yada. Just always saying that we don't need it. We don't have. And my husband's like, I'm just going to give him everything. And I go, no, you're not. And it's not because we need it. And I keep saying the principle of the matter, but it's because you were it was gifted to you. It is gifted to you. You have just as
and
much
so
right
it's
as
not,
him.
yeah. I mean, in those situations, I would just say, I can see from your perception that you don't think it's fair.
I love it.
That must be very upsetting for you. Um, Unfortunately, mom left
Yep.
things the way she did, and that wasn't my choice. And I'm going to honor her wishes,
Yeah.
and leave it at that.
Yeah, we were talking about this with our family, our kids, and saying, my husband's just like, I feel bad. I want to give him something. Like, oh, he's suckering you in. He is suckering you in. He goes, well, maybe I'll just give him like 50,000. No. He's
But
50.
you know what? The thing is, here's the problem with that.
Oh my God.
Even if he gave him 50,000, he'd want more. It wouldn't be, because it's not about that. It's about him controlling your husband and making him feel like the heat. Like they enjoy that process of making people squirm. That's how they get narcissistic supply. I'm making this son feel like, uncomfortable and good. I'm squeezing him, so there's some other resentments that he's not good enough, or that he didn't get enough, or he wasn't loved enough, or whatever it was.
All of it.
There's all that stuff going on, and throwing money at that black hole is not going to close the hole. It's just it'll disappear into the hole, and it'll still be there.
Yeah. My son said something very, very good. He said, let the will be the bad guy. Let the will be the bad guy, not you. You're not the bad guy. Let the will be the bad guy. Yeah. And that was a switch that turned on for my husband. We were, talking about it forever and ever. And that switch, he's like, you're right. You're right.
Well, that's what I say too. Like, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, her wishes were her wishes.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm honoring her wishes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're upset that I'm honoring her wishes, but that's what I'm doing. And,
well, I hope that example. I hope that vulnerability of my example of what's going on in my household, but
it is helpful, because then people can see. Yeah.
People can see exactly what I'm talking about, and you're able to respond to that and say, this is the way to look at it. And I just wanted the validation. And isn't it funny how God brings people into your life at the time when you need them? It's just amazing, because the fact that we're doing this recording, at a time where we just had a weekend of with him. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just been crazy. And so no, I absolutely love it. So someone, how do we open the door with you? If there's an individual who's listening to this, how do we open that door to learn more so that we can be better at our sales, better at our entrepreneurship, better at family negotiations and professional negotiations? What is the best way to open that door?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is go to winmynegotiation.com, which is just a URL that I created just for people to be able to get my Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet.
Yep.
So it's an ebook. It's free. It's like a totally really good freebie. I packed it with lots of value because I wanted people to have lots of value. So it's at winmynegotiation.com. They can definitely
and we'll have the link here. Yep.
Yeah. And then my YouTube channel, just go
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to subscribe. I think I already have, though.
Yeah, just if you go to YouTube and you put in negotiate with a narcissist, I'm the only one out there who's really talking about it in a meaningful way. And you'll find my channel there. Make sure you subscribe. And, I go live twice a week, and I do Ask the Attorney Anything sessions, and I have free webinars that people can sign up for, and
there's so much value.
I give lots and lots of free content away.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. If the free stuff is that good, imagine what it's like working with you directly. right?
Yeah. So I have a program. So the Slay program is not working with me directly, but it's a 4-hour crash course that people can do on their own.
But still, I mean, it's your good stuff.
Totally. I do have some one-on-one sessions, but because I have 7 million views on YouTube and people it's just it's very limited. And, so I do have some, but really everything is in my Slay course. It's all there. I held nothing back.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah. And that's such a smart use of your time too. It really is.
Yeah.
So I love that you do that. And of course you have the availability for them to ask you questions, in your other groups and stuff. So you can have those group sort of questions. And I totally get that. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
When I was a top producer in the mortgage space, it got really, really high up. Everybody kept calling and calling. They wanted to pick my brain. Well, pretty soon I was spending all this time letting everybody pick my brain free. And I wasn't doing my work, right? I was going, something's suffering here. And so that's really what started that podcast, Mortgage Lending Mastery just bring your questions. Let me answer them. This will be how we'll do it. You're going to get me, but you're going to get there. So it's really good that you're doing that, for your own sanity. And I think that's really, really important. So,
I couldn't even physically answer everybody's questions nowadays.
There's absolutely no way.
We get hundreds of emails a day.
Yeah.
So I have 2 girls that basically that's all they do all day because I'm really committed to people getting personal responses to their emails and their inquiries and not just getting some automatic reply because of what people are dealing with. But on the other hand, if I did that all day, first of all, I couldn't physically do it myself.
Right.
And then second of all, I definitely wouldn't be able to provide any more content because that's all I would be doing.
Right. Is dealing with that. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. So I have a question I want to ask you. And that is that if I were to come visit you in California, you're out in California right now, what would we do together?
Oh, we would walk on the beach right here on the Strand. I mean, it's the best. You go walk on the beach, you go stop, have a drink, watch sunset. That's what I do with all my girlfriends. We walk on the beach, we go maybe have coffee or have lunch or whatever, but the beach is my happy place.
That's awesome. I love asking that question just to find out a little bit more about you. And that lets people know the other side of you, right? Not the part that we're sharing here. So totally. I just thank you again, Rebecca. It's been such a pleasure. And I've had so much fun just getting to know you generally. And, I just wish you the best. And I don't know, I know exactly where you're at in California, but I'm excited to, hopefully have that opportunity to meet you one day as I'm heading out there for all these events that I've got planned, coming up here in the next year.
Love it.
Love that opportunity. Not because I want to go walk on the beach, just asking you that question generally. Right? But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us your wisdom. I love the Slay. And don't forget, you can go to YouTube and find Negotiate with the Narcissist. That'll be part of it. We'll have all your links here. And the beautiful gift that you have of giving us the worksheet of winmynegotiation.com. And so thank you so much for sharing time with us today. I've learned so much from this very short period of time. And that's what's important to me. Right?
Yes.
It always is like, can I grow a little more every single day? And I've definitely grown more to have this be another little reticular activator in my activities every day. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So everybody, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. Please don't forget to give us a great 5-star rating and write a review. Write us a review. Let us know how you thought, what you thought about this particular podcast or any ideas that you would like to see on the podcast. And we'd be happy to get the people in and go over those topics with you. So we'll catch you next time. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Be sure to subscribe to hear more sales tips, ideas, strategies, and tactics to help you with your personal and professional growth to multiply your results in record time. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Wanting more beyond the podcast? Join our Mortgage Lending Mastery membership community. where you will find extended interviews with our favorite guests, weekly training, tips, and insider secrets, fireside chats with Jen, free content, meet, share, and collaborate with other members, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about this exclusive content. Mortgage Lending Mastery is an Industry Syndicate charter podcast. Industry Syndicate is the first podcast network specifically for the mortgage and real estate industries. Get the Industry Syndicate app in the App Store or Google Play today.